One thing I really enjoy doing here at the Nanjing Show is to get impressions from people who are coming here for the first time. So right now, I'm going to do an interview with a gentleman that I met online on the Friends of Mineralogy forum who talked about wanting to go to Nanjing, and he actually made arrangements, and he's here now. So let's catch up with Alexandros and see his impression of the Nanjing Show. Alexandros, how are you, my friend?
Hi, Brian.
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexandros, tell us, first of all, where you're from.
Oh, I'm from Greece, and it's my first time in China.
Your first time in China?
Yes.
And so you decided to come here. How did you learn about the Nanjing Show?
This is a whole story, actually. I first learned from a Chinese seller in Instagram. And the funny thing is that there was no website when I learned about it regarding the expo. And I said, this is not possible. Either he doesn't know or he's not saying the truth.
Right.
Or something else is happening. So I started together with my companion all our research to see if there is a show in Nanjing this year. We knew there was one last year, and when it will happen. And little by little, first of all, we found your amazing videos from last year, and we said, okay, we have something to start working with.
We have a baseline.
Exactly. And for this, honestly, I want to thank you and to congratulate you for your job. Because it is amazing. It is helping a lot of people like me. I suppose I'm not alone. There are many people who want to visit shows, and not only for Nanjing, which was and is a special adventure for someone from the Western countries, but also for the other shows. When I started with visiting mineral expos, the first thing I found were your videos from Tucson, from France, from Munich.
Super.
And so I started getting familiar with the sense of the expo, but also with the important players, the sellers, etc., and also the minerals, of course. So I was very happy, and this created the desire to visit expos.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so now that you're here, now I remember we were talking about hotels. You ended up not staying at the Metro or the Grand Metro hotel where I'm staying and where I covered. You ended up getting a room at the Holiday Inn, and even some of our friends from Collector's Edge are also at the Holiday Inn. I think Laszlo Cooper is at the Holiday Inn.
We are in the same floor.
A lot of people ended up at the Holiday Inn. Tell me a little bit about the Holiday Inn so I can understand it and the viewers at home can get a better idea.
Okay. Originally, I checked what you proposed to me, but fortunately, there was another person who helped a lot, two persons. One was Greg Lilly from the Mineral Forum, who last year stayed in Holiday Inn. And he told us that it's at walking distance, some 10 or 15 minutes. And actually, it is exactly at 15 minutes walking distance, walking normally. And also, thanks to you, we were in communication with George Fan from the organizing committee. Who we wish to thank a lot because he answered all emails, provided many details, etc. So Holiday Inn is just fine, like a big hotel. There is everything. There is dinner. They are very helpful, like all Chinese people, actually. This is another thing I would like to say. They are very polite and they are very helpful. And, you know, all of us, we have the problem with Chinese language because we know or just 3 words or nothing. And so I see many people here in the expo, but also outside in the street, that when they realize that a conversation has to be done and they don't speak English, someone passing who speaks just 3-4 words in English, he intervenes and tries to help. So this was a very, very positive impression for us. So the hotel is just fine. And also it's very close to the lake and the park, which for us was another good part of our trip, visiting and walking around. And we also really walked even later in the night, and we always felt safe. We saw many young couples, kids, families. wonderful.
It's a very safe feeling.
Very safe
Thank you
feeling.
for sharing that. I think it's
We
very
didn't go
important.
inside deep in the town. We have to visit the port of the grapes, the skyscrapers, etc. But for what we saw until now around the expo and the hotel, we really felt safe and everything was nice.
I love it. Thank you for saying that. The expo, the CIMGE Nanjing Show, what was your first impression, and has that changed? And if so, in what way?
When you say first impression before coming,
Well,
or
when you first entered the show.
when we first entered the show, so I think it was positive since the beginning. You know, just watching your videos, I wanted to have a look at the prices. There are not many sellers who put prices in general, not in Nanjing, in many expos, and you had one or two who had prices, and these were huge. And I was wondering, is it finally a show for me as well, who I am not of really high budget? Will I be able to buy something? Because, I was seeing the big carvings or the Chinese way to present minerals, which are very expensive. And I said, this is not for me, let's see. But later I found out that it is like all the other expos I have visited. I have been twice in Munich and once in Bologna. Now, Saint Marie and Tucson are in our plans for next year.
Oh, wonderful.
So hopefully we will be there. But we really don't see any more really big differences. There are minerals for all budgets. There are really fantastic occasions. I have to tell this, that I was excited being in China, being in Nanjing. I liked the expo. But then when I started finding minerals at the price I could get them, I'm in the sky since yesterday. I am the clouds.
Now, were they Chinese minerals or they global, international?
No, not only Chinese minerals.
Okay.
And I thought that I could find Chinese mineral in better prices, but no. For example, I bought my first aquas here. I could not imagine. I bought two of them. They are fantastic pieces, and I won't tell you the price. You won't believe it.
I won't believe it, right.
When I saw it and when they told me the price, I thought they made a mistake. It's not possible.
It's not translating.
So you can imagine, you know how it is with minerals. You have to fall in love with a mineral, and then when you are in love with something you want, and then when you can have it, you're in the sky.
I love it. I love it. So overall, the professionalism of the show sounds like you're very happy with that.
Absolutely.
What kind of recommendation, or how would you recommend people coming to Nanjing? Would you say that it's definitely something you should do? What are your thoughts?
Yes. If you have the possibility, for us also the tickets were not expensive, were like going in Europe from Greece. So just a little bit higher price. So this was something positive. The hotel is normal price, even lower than our usual standards in Europe. And also the food is not expensive. Well, there are expensive places, but if you don't want, you can go low budget easily. So I really recommend it. And also, it's an excellent show, and I suppose it will be growing. Something else that I liked, in comparison to Munich. Munich is huge, I suppose, to Tucson as well. But here, it's big enough for you to enjoy many booths, many sellers, to see many minerals, but not huge so that you have to run every day, and also you have more days than in Munich to spend in the show.
Okay.
So already in 2 days, going relatively fast, I could do all the show. And then I have the time to select and go back again or bargain, etc.
Fantastic. So we're going to see you in Nanjing next year?
I think so. If I can find cheap tickets, I think you will see me here. I hope you are also here next year.
Oh, I definitely will be here next year.
Great.
Let me ask you, traveling to Nanjing, what was your route? Because for me, I had to stop in Korea, which I love because, you know, I have family there. I'm half Korean.
I didn't
And then
know.
from Korea, I could fly direct to Nanjing, but I cannot book a flight direct from my home in Honolulu to Nanjing. I have to stop in Korea, and, you know, so I fly Korean Airlines. How did you arrive in Nanjing? What was your route?
Well, we had two options. One was with two flights. I think we go from Athens to Doha or to the Emirates. I don't remember one of those. And then we have to fly to Beijing or Shanghai and then to Nanjing. I don't remember, but I think there were some opportunities for two flights. I don't remember. I don't want to say. But for us, we decided to have a European flight for a particular reason, because going back with some pieces, if possible, we wanted not to be taxed, not to have the customs, at least not in a nasty way. And so we wanted to go back to Greece through another European country. So probably in this way it will be easier rather than coming from an Asian country directly. So we went Athens, Paris, Paris, Shanghai, Shanghai, Nanjing.
Okay.
And it will be Amsterdam going back. So Amsterdam, Athens.
Gotcha.
Nanjing, Shanghai, Amsterdam, Athens.
Well, super, super. Well, I look forward to seeing you here in Nanjing next year, and hopefully before that in Tucson for 2026.
Yes, or in Munich. Will you be in Munich?
I will be in Munich.
So see you in Munich.
Fantastic. All right, my friend. Take care. Well, we are all back from China right now, and I'm actually on a Zoom call right now with Alexandros because I wanted to follow up with him to see which pieces he ended up and what his overall experience in purchasing these pieces are. So, Alexandros, how are you, my friend?
I'm really well, Brian. Thank you. How are you?
Oh, I am doing excellent. So I know that you brought home a lot of pieces, and I think there are 7 pieces that we want to focus on here. But overall, you were very enthusiastic when we talked in Nanjing. Has that enthusiasm carried forward after the show?
Absolutely. Even more, because I think we met one of the first days, the first or the second. And so my experience all the remaining days was great, was even greater. I mean, every day I was happier.
That is fantastic. That's great. Okay, so you have 7 pieces that we've selected that we're going to share with the audience here. Why don't you go ahead, start showing us the first of the pieces and tell us what inspired you to choose that piece.
Okay, let's start with some Chinese minerals, since we were in China. And this is the first one. This is a calcite, an orange calcite flowers. I like them a lot because I had never seen them before, and also in such a nice positioning on the matrix. Actually, in the entire expo, there was only this one piece in one seller, and there was another seller, both Chinese sellers, that had much more pieces, but with very tiny calcite flowers. They weren't so special like this one. So this was a mineral that I saw probably the first day, and I bought the second day, something.
Superb. That's a beautiful piece, lovely piece. I love the way that those flowers are kind of situated vertically, but not directly vertically in line. They're a little bit slanted.
Exactly.
It creates kind of a more dynamic movement for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And how was the pricing on that? Did you find overall it was the same kind of pricing that you would expect to see it like a European mineral show, or was it less expensive?
Well, if the question is general and not just for this piece, is that There were minerals and sellers with prices that I would say normal, not higher or lower than usually in European shows. There were some with high prices, and there were some with low prices. It all depends what are you looking for and how you insist to find it. In general, however, I would say that I was surprised how lower were the prices in comparison to Chinese sellers from the internet. There, I think the difference was quite important.
Okay, so you were actually finding a bargain from Chinese dealers versus what other Chinese dealers were selling online.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Well, that's always great news. That's one of the reasons why you have to go to these mineral shows. All right,
Yes.
show us the next mineral specimen that you have.
Okay. The other one is also Chinese, and it is pyrite concretion. I was looking for this mineral. There were not too many. There was only one seller that had a dozen or a little bit more of them. This was the nicer and a little bit more expensive than the others, but very cheap one. And so it was something that I bought from the first day.
That is superb.
It even has something special. In the center, it looks like a letter, which is phi. It's the F letter in Greek. And this is the first letter of my surname. So I'm really attached to this.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I love it. So that was also, as you said, a very affordable price.
Very, very
almost surprisingly
affordable.
so.
Yeah, very affordable.
That's wonderful.
Extremely cheap. Then we pass to the next one. This was a bit more expensive, but still very good price. This is a crystal clear fluorite, a gem quality from Yangonxian, if I pronounce it correctly.
Superb.
And it was something that I bought the last day with, let's say, not a big, I had a 10% of discount at the end. So it was one of my expensive ones, but relatively, I would say it was not expensive really. In the internet, the prices for such a piece usually are much more than double, perhaps triple.
You saw that, and then you ended up picking up the last day.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So that old philosophy, not really philosophy, but the way that purchasing works at a mineral show, that if you can wait to the end, you might get it at a lower price, but you run the risk of someone else picking it up. That still runs true even in China.
Exactly, exactly. When I saw some pieces that I really liked, and they were, of course, within the limits of my budget, I just walk away. I'm thinking about it a little bit, and then I return the same day, not a lot later. I ask for a better price, and if I have a better price, then I go for it immediately. I don't wait for the last day. And actually, this was the case for a non-Chinese mineral that I bought that will be awful in the camera, but I hope you have the photos to show, because everybody knows the color of sulfur, and this is a fantastic one. But you see, it's my camera. We don't see the yellow here. It will show in the photo. It has a fantastic structure, or the structure perhaps shows a little bit, but anyway, in the photo it will be greater, I think. So this one was something that I was looking for more than 1 year. And when I saw it, I knew actually the seller from the internet. So I was happy to meet her in person. And she was also happy. And she already told me that, okay, I will make you a better price. And I asked an even better price after I returned after a quarter, and I asked, "Can you make something better for me?" And she was really happy to make this, and so it was a great deal. And the next day, you see why we said that when you see something and it is within your limits, you have to go for it. Because I returned the next day, and she told me that just less than 1 hour later than I passed, one of her clients, internet clients, who was there as well, went and asked for the sulfur that had seen from the internet. And she said, "I'm sorry, you didn't tell me to keep it for you, so I sold it." And I was really lucky. Just, I don't know, 1 hour later, the piece would have gone.
Oh, that is great. So it's kind of like, it's an active market and you have to, if the price is right, like you say, you have to
Exactly.
do it.
Exactly. Yes. And so let's go for the next one is another Chinese one. It is also not expensive. It is a desert rose. All two or three sellers had this kind of specimens. This one was quite big, and the best I saw in the show. There were some. I also bought some smaller ones that were very cheap, almost nothing. This one was more expensive, but I had the initial price. Then I went again. They told me they would make a better price, and also it has a story. It was the last day that I decided to buy it, and so I went and I said, "Okay, if you can make an even better price, I buy it now. If not, I will think about it the last half an hour of the show. Perhaps yes, perhaps no." A quarter later, the young guy of the seller of this mineral found me in another place far away from his booth. And he asked me, "Do you still want it at the price you said?" And I said, "Yes, of course. And thank you for coming to look for me." And so this was another happy purchase of a
Oh,
mineral
that's
from China.
spectacular. That's
They
wonderful.
told me that it is from Inner Mongolia, but looking in Mindat, I found another origin. It is called Fuyun County. I don't know if it is in Inner Mongolia. I think it isn't. So I think for everybody, even while during the show, even better, but also after, it is good to confirm with Mindat the origin of the specimens we buy. And especially to insist, I did it with all of them. If they know, sometimes they don't know, but if they know, to write down the origin, ideally also the year of collection. This is what I do, but I think it's useful.
Well, I think that's a good point. One thing it seems that the Chinese are not as meticulous about as we are in the West is recording the location and having labels with it. Certainly not recording the when it was brought out. Even that isn't terribly well documented here in the West. But so it's a little bit sketchy in terms of the precise locality. But if you're doing your research like you do on Mindat, then you can probably figure out the locality with a certain degree of accuracy.
Exactly, exactly. And we go to this one, which was, well, because of the good price, actually, it was my first aqua. I didn't have another one before, and I really liked it when I saw it immediately because it is quite large, as you can see. The crystal is large. The muscovite is really beautiful, and the most important is that the crystal is positioned at the ideal distance between the edges of the matrix, between 2/3 and 3/4 of the edges. So I liked it a lot. Again, I didn't buy it immediately. I saw it the first day. I discussed with the seller, etc. But then during the night, I said, I have to go first thing to do in the morning to go for the aqua. I don't know if it will be there, but I hope it will. And it was another successful deal.
That is superb. And you had wanted an aquamarine for a while, but you were never able to find one of sufficient quality and low enough price that you could acquire it. But in Nanjing, you're able to realize that dream.
A few months ago, I was in the Bologna Expo and I saw an aqua that was much more expensive. It was 1/3 of the size of the crystal. And I was thinking about it. I decided not, fortunately. So I had the opportunity in Nanjing to buy this one that I like a lot.
And that, again, was from a Chinese dealer?
This was from a Chinese dealer. The specimen is from Skardu, Pakistan.
Right. Superb. Okay, you have one other piece that has a couple different stories about it.
Yes.
Share the piece, and then we'll look at some photos of how you got it back home safely.
Okay. It's very fragile and very, very special. It's this one. It's this one. It is a mineral from India, and there was a relatively recent, I don't remember, find while constructing a road. And there are several specimens like this sold in the internet. I had seen it in the internet. I liked it a lot. It looked to me like something very strange and very special. And so when I saw it, it was also the last day. I didn't see it before, although I passed twice from that seller. There are so many things to see. Actually, I need days personally to see everything and to really see if there is something that I like. So I decided to buy it because it was cheap, really cheap, especially for something like this. And I bought it. I asked the what kind of mineral it was because I didn't remember what I had like image in the internet, and they told me, the seller told me that it is a zeolite. It was difficult for the translation because, you know, even the applications that translate do not know the term, do not know the mineral. So term. It was difficult, but many other Chinese people came to help and decide that this is a zeolite. Later, looking in the Mindat, I realized the same night, actually, still in China, that this is, or is supposed to be, a mesolite, actually a Thomsonite, the orange spheres, and with these spikes, of mesolite. Even the analysis that was made in similar specimens, it's not decided yet if it is both minerals, if it is one or whatever. So it's an open question according to Mindat now. But the story of this precise pieces is a little bit more funny, actually. Because should I say it, Brian?
Go ahead, say it.
This specimen is fake. And I didn't know it. And also, I do not complain. I have not only the impression, a deep feeling that the seller, it was a very kind Chinese lady. She didn't have any idea that this is fake. It is so well made. And only coming here back in Greece and starting my investigation, I realized that it is fake. At that moment, although it looks a little bit strange, I told you, if you go to the internet, you find a little bit different matrix, but the crystals are the same in the real specimens, not the fake ones. And I realized that it is, I bought it immediately, first of all, because it was cheap. But we have always to remember when something is very cheap, it looks much cheaper than it should. We have to question ourselves. So, because I thought, how is it possible to make such a delicate mineral as fake? How are you going to build it? I mean, you can see all these spikes here, the small sea urchins. How can you make it? And actually later, coming back here, I learned that they first make the small sphere, the orange sphere, and then the rest of it is fiberglass. I don't know how exactly they put it on it. Perhaps they put glue and then they throw the fiberglass. I don't know. But this is how they make it.
That is fascinating. And as we were talking about earlier, one of the telltale signs is that if it's authentic, then if you were to follow those spikes down into the center, they all have the same center of origin. This one, it's more kind of like a cactus. They're all spread out.
Exactly. Perhaps because they throw them until they are glued on the orange spheres.
So that's interesting. There are fakes out there, but in this case, you suspect that the Chinese dealer was not even aware that it was a fake.
Yes, exactly. This is something that comes from India. I think she found it at very good price, and then I had it.
Well, I love it.
Anyway, I'm happy because I wanted to have one fake in my showcase to show to the people what is a fake mineral.
Well, you have a fake, but you also have a great story behind it, and transporting it from Nanjing back home to Greece.
Exactly.
You had to create this kind of nice support to protect it.
Actually, when I saw it, first time I said, no, I don't buy it even if it is cheap, because how to take it back home? Impossible. I mean, you can protect it, but how to make it, make these crystals not to be in touch with everything? So I spent an entire night, many hours to construct something that would completely protect it. Initially, I said, okay, I will have it in my handbag. But you see the size, it's quite big, it's a stone. So there was the danger that in any of the three controls that I had to pass from one airport to the other, they would stop me and they could say, this is a weapon, it's a stone, a big stone, you can kill the pilot with this one, so you cannot take it. And the risk was that I had to leave it. Okay, if it was in the first airport, perhaps I could put another handbag in to check in another handbag and have it gone. But having three airports, I thought this would be nonsense. So I had to put it in the checked-in baggages. And this is why I had to construct all this protection box, let's say, to save it from being destroyed. And it was successful. I was amazed. You understand that without the baggage, it can turn like this, but it doesn't have to touch anything. So it was a bit special. I asked in the hotel some help for materials. They were kind. They provided everything. And at the end, it was well packed.
I love it. Now, of those 7 pieces that we saw, you carried 4 of them in your hand luggage. What kind of experience did you have getting back home?
Okay. I made a selection what to have. Well, first of all, I said, if my baggage is lost forever, at least to have some minerals with me. But from another point of view, they should be minerals that wouldn't be considered as a weapon in the flight. So I could pass the security check every time, 3 times in 3 different flights. So I went for the sulfur, the calcite, the desert rose, and the fluorite that I had in my handbag. For example, this one, the pyrite, had a small size relatively, but it was a sphere, it is heavy. Once more, I said, no, let's put it in the checked-in baggage because it could be considered as a weapon. And the fact is that I passed two controls, one in Nanjing and one in Shanghai, where, you know, in China, the security controls are very severe. They look everything. They may stop many things. I was surprised that they said nothing, perhaps because they see minerals. Even Chinese people are taking flights from the expo. I don't know. But even in Shanghai, where there was no expo, they said nothing. They did not even ask to open the bag and see what was inside the boxes with the minerals. On the contrary, entering Europe in Amsterdam, I had the control, and there they asked me to open all the boxes in my handbags which had minerals. For them, it was something very strange. They didn't have the experience, apparently, and they told me also that it's the first time we see minerals like this. But they were also very interested. They were asking questions about the mineral, not about the security, after they saw what it was. And then they let me peacefully put everything in place again and secure them, pack them, and continue my flight.
You know, you bring up a very good point. I always say that one of the toughest securities traveling through Europe is in France, in Paris, because they really go through my bags. I travel obviously with a lot of video and camera gear. Um, Paris has nothing compared to the security in China. And both in Nanjing and Shanghai, I had to do both securities as well. They really, really, really went through my bags, which says a couple things. First is make sure you get there early if you have things that may be questionable.
Exactly.
And second, from my bags, I had a couple small screwdrivers about this big and some Allen wrenches that I use for my camera gear. Those were all confiscated, not in Nanjing, but in Shanghai. And so they are really tough on security. Now, I've traveled all over the world with those screwdrivers and Allen wrenches. Nobody has ever made an issue of it. But in China, it was deemed potentially hazardous. So they confiscated that from me. Not a big deal, but it is interesting to your point that they saw these four minerals in your suitcase and it didn't even flag any kind of warning.
In both airports. So, yes.
Very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the experience that you had with the dealers. They were the dealers that sold you the pieces that we've seen on this clip here. They were all Chinese. How was communication with them? Did they speak English? How did you communicate?
Very, very interesting and also very funny. I enjoyed it actually. Well, we had all kind of cases. There were some sellers, they didn't speak at all English. So there, either we had to use an application. I used the Alipay translator. Okay. And so it was a little bit slower, but we could communicate perfectly. Or use also gestures for the easy things. If which piece I want to take photos. I want you to put the price close so that I take a photo with it, etc. This was one kind of situation. In other situations, either the seller was speaking English, good enough to communicate at least, or even very well, and or they had an employee, a young person usually, who could make the translation, or they had a volunteer from the organizing committee, which was fantastic that they provided for free volunteers to translate, and we could communicate perfectly also.
And the volunteers had those bright yellow shirts, so they were very easy to spot. Getting back to the mineral purchases.
Just to add something, some of them were so friendly and kind that they made gift to us, minerals. We had some minerals. They made the first gift. Then we went back to buy something. We were expecting that it was cheap. It wasn't. And so we said, we were expecting it's cheaper. Can you give it cheaper? And they made another time something that we were about to buy. They made it as a gift because we discussed a lot, because they liked us, because they were really friendly. I was surprised and not surprised. I was really happy to see that behavior.
That's wonderful. It's interesting because it touches on the subject I wanted to talk about, haggling, in terms of not accepting the listed price as the final price, as we tend to do more in America, where we see a price and we say, oh, that's the final price. But in many other cultures, and especially in China and in Asia, that's kind of the starting price. But you bring up a different facet of that, but which is by making a connection and having a conversation, sometimes those prices are eliminated and they're given to you as a gift. That's fantastic.
That means it comes from inside. Some of them, there are sellers, perhaps they are at a higher level, they are known, they won't do it so easily or not at all. But most of them, they don't see it also only as a bargain. There is a kind of friendship developing if you are kind enough to be friendly with them. They understand who you are, what you are doing, etc. So yes, I had this feeling.
I love that. That's a great perspective. Final question I want to ask you is, how did you manage payments with these dealers?
Yeah, good question, because this is something that was making me nervous before going to China. I used an application, the Alipay application. It was the only way I had to pay them. There is another way, WeChat, but another application, but I could not install it properly, so I could not use it. Alipay is very useful because it has many other applications inside the application, including the translator. But the problem is that, you can install it before your trip to China. You can insert your bank cards, but you cannot know if they work, because there are two problems. One thing is that Alipay won't work until you are in China. So while being in Europe, I didn't know if it works. And also, if you try to make a transfer, I tried with a friend to make a transfer, a small transfer, to see if it works. It couldn't work because it doesn't work between non-Chinese users of the application.
Oh, so since neither one of you were Chinese users, you couldn't transfer the money. It only works from a non-Chinese to a Chinese.
Exactly. A friend of mine with Alipay could not make it work because even in China, because something with her bank card. I don't know. I had various options, etc. I had plan B, but I was really happy that it worked perfectly for me since the first day. Of course, the first day I went out to look for a SIM card.
Did you try to buy any piece using cash?
I think yes. There was a piece of copper that was quite cheap the last day, and I used cash. It was accepted.
Okay, so you had converted into yuan and you were able to use cash during that purchase, at least.
Yes. I had, because I didn't know if everything will work fine, I had some cash that I made in the airport in Athens before leaving. So not a lot, just a small amount to be safe, that at least I would have something to eat if necessary, etc. And the hotel accepts the card, so this is important. You can pay the hotel, you can eat in the hotel. But then for all the rest, I couldn't be sure until I was in China.
Fantastic. So overall impression was still fantastic. And what's the plan for next year?
Yes, the plan is to be there. I suppose I can find a cheap flight like this time. And I suppose I'm healthy as well. And under these conditions, I will definitely go back to Nanjing. I loved the expo. I loved the city. I loved the people. And I had fantastic minerals. So we want more.
That is
from
wonderful.
Nanjing.
Alexandros, thank you so much for taking the time to record this with me. And it was great to meet you in person. I look forward to seeing you in Munich.
I was so happy to meet you and have this conversation with you. And I hope we are useful to other people. I would really advise them to go and have their first experience in China, in Nanjing.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you in Munich.
Bye-bye, Mama, my friend. See you.